Coming up on Lawmakers, a Senate committee passes out legislation that would create charter school systems and career academies. Governor Sonny Perdue announces the return of his Hope Chest Amendment. And the AARP takes issue with the proposed elimination of state income tax on retirement income. Those stories and more are coming up next.
This is Lawmakers, your source for all the news from under the Gold Dome. Here are your anchors, Wandy Lawson and David Zelski.
Good evening, everyone. Also on Lawmakers, First Lady Mary Perdue unveils her new Kids First initiative aimed at helping abused and neglected children.
And our series of Tuesday leadership interviews continues with House Majority Leader Jerry Keene and House Minority Leader DeBose Porter. But our lead story tonight, Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle's Education Initiatives passed committee. Late this afternoon, the Senate Education Committee passed a couple of bills by Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle dealing with charter schools and career academies. Lawmakers Sandra Parrish joins us live with the latest. Sandra.
David, Senate Bill 39 would allow entire school systems to apply for charter status. It passed along party lines with a vote of 4-3. Senate Bill 68 also passed on a vote of 5-2, which calls for the creation of 5 career academies around the state and the funding to go with them. Local high schools would partner with technical colleges to provide career training for students. Today, members of the Senate Education Committee heard from Senator Dan Weber, who is carrying the bills for Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, as well as from students and State School Superintendent Kathy Cox, who support them.
This is about local control of the schools. Local control in the true sense of the word. The bill focuses on allowing a high degree of flexibility for the school systems and each of the schools in that system when they become a charter school system. In exchange for the flexibility, the school system will enter into a charter with the state board in particular, to agree to meet performance standards.
The hours that I attend Kidways Academy, 7:15 to 5:15, Monday through Thursdays, and on Fridays, 7:15 to 4 o'clock, and on Saturdays, on selected Saturdays, 8:30 to 12:30. And I enjoy going to the school, and it is unique because we focus on college, and now that I have been going to Kidways, I have made the decision that I want to go to college and that I am going to become a pediatrician.
We have a mission that allows the teachers to take the students and push them forward in the direction that they should go. And also we have focus classes which include IT, engineering, business management, and physical science.
I think that one of the most unique aspects of CEC is the availability of career-oriented classes, whether it be in welding or, in my case, nursing, maybe construction. The students can learn basic skills or job shadow or intern in a field that interests them.
And these career academies and innovative things that we can do with charter schools and these young people that we're talking about, Tech High and other things, are the answer to fully engaging our young people, who I will tell you, they are smart, they're energetic, and they are willing to work. We've got to give them what they're demanding.
Now, no one spoke in opposition of either bill today, but the Georgia Association of Educators did raise some concerns in regards to probable cause dismissals for teachers, as well as the ability to run background checks on personnel. Reporting live, I'm Sandra Parrish for Lawmakers.
Governor Sonny Perdue was flanked by the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House today when he announced the reintroduction of Hope Chest, the constitutional amendment designating that lottery proceeds may be used only for the Hope Scholarship and pre-K programs failed to pass the General Assembly last year. Buoyed by an endorsement from Zell Miller, the governor who initiated the Hope Scholarship program, Perdue predicts that bipartisan support will generate the 2/3 majority in both houses needed to pass the resolution.
The Hope Chest Amendment does simply one thing, and that's a phrase these legislators hear. This bill does one thing and one thing only. It preserves the lottery revenue for the Hope Scholarship and the pre-K program. You know, we introduced this last year, and I understand that many of my colleagues, certainly on the other side of the aisle, could have thought it was election year politics. It wasn't then, and it's not now.
With the election cycle complete, Republican leaders say the measure is poised to receive bipartisan support.
The tone in which we've set in the Senate has been more bipartisan. Many of the Democrat members were elevated in the committee process. and they're very much a part of the issues that are coming to the floor. And I think we're going to be able to reach a good compromise in order to secure the passage of this bill.
I look forward to a bipartisan effort. I think that all of us are proud of the Hope Scholarship Program in the House, and we want it to continue for our children and grandchildren. And the best way to do that is to secure it through a constitutional amendment.
The governor says over $1.8 billion in lottery revenue was spent outside Hope and pre-K between 1994 and 2003. Although he would not list the specific items, he said the Hope Chest Amendment would protect the money from future misappropriation.
I can't commit future governors. That's what a constitutional authority, constitutional amendment does. It says that the people of Georgia believe that we want this money dedicated solely for Hope and pre-K. And it's our responsibility as governors and as legislators, as lieutenant governors, as speakers, to manage those resources for the posterity of Georgia.
Governor Perdue says the Hope Chest Amendment will first be introduced in the Senate.
Republican leaders have filed a bill giving a retirement income tax break to all seniors. The measure comes from Governor Sonny Perdue, who announced the break in his State of the State address earlier this month. Lawmakers' Jesse Freeman joins us live with more. Jesse.
Well, David, House Bill 195 has been filed by the governor's floor leader and by House Ways and Means Chair Larry O'Neill. But the bill doesn't have support from at least one key senior advocacy group. The AARP of Georgia says most seniors already get this break, and they ask, who is this really supposed to help? Seniors living on retirement income already have some income tax exemptions. Some Republican leaders want more.
The governor's proposal is a phase-in essentially over 4 years. Currently this year, the first $30,000 per taxpayer is exempt from Georgia taxation for people over 62. That goes to $35,000, or a total of $70,000 for a family next year. And then the first year of the governor's new bill will take that to $65,000 per person.
But some groups say the measure is weak public policy.
Already in the state of Georgia, individuals with $55,000 of retirement income are already exempted from this tax. Couples with $90,000 of retirement income are exempted. So we think this would really benefit a very small percentage of Georgians, and it would take about $140 million or so out of our coffers every year.
Chairman O'Neill says the measure will be good for businesses in Georgia.
We want retirees to come to Georgia, and we especially want Georgia retirees to stay home in Georgia. We want them shopping in Georgia businesses, and we want them spoiling their grandchildren here. We think that's the right thing to do.
Now, if it passes, the bill would not take effect until 2009. The bill was read for the first time today and has not been assigned to a committee, but like almost all tax bills, it's likely headed for O'Neill's Ways and Means Committee. Reporting live, I'm Jesse Freeman for Lawmakers.
Thanks, Jesse. Today, the House Ways and Means Committee joined the Senate Finance Committee to hear a presentation on tax policy. The Tax Foundation, a conservative policy group, presented information about tax laws in Georgia in comparison to other states.
If you're going to do fundamental reform, if you want to be a top state, if you want to be a Florida or a Texas in terms of your business tax structure, you got to look at eliminating a major tax. The states that do the best in our tax structure rankings are those that go without one of the major taxes. If you want to reduce your burden, please choose the right taxes. We think the best way to reduce your tax burden is to do it in a broad-based way, in a fair way that applies to all people. The best way is not through special credits or deductions, which really is just the government picking the winners and losers in the marketplace. And there are a host of economic consequences from that those of you who want to support pro-growth policy would normally be concerned about, but when it comes to picking how you're going to reduce the burden, sometimes we forget about that.
The Ways and Means Committee conducted hearings all summer covering Georgia's tax laws. Leadership in the House has indicated a desire to overhaul the state's tax code.
The Senate passed one bill today. That was Senate Bill 14, which extends funding for the Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority. Senator Chip Rogers explains.
Today I have the honor of presenting you with the annual Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority bill. As they are wishing to extend their authority 2 more years. This is a great organization, self-funded. I have not had a single complaint about this organization. The realtors love them, the lawyers love them, we love them, and we should extend their existence at least another 2 years. And one of the main reasons is that they oftentimes will have to sign a lease that is 5 to 7 years long, and so they need to make sure that this authority is going to be there 5 or 7 years from now. So I would ask your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 14.
Not only in the Senate, but all around the Capitol, men and women were wearing red. That's because today is Go Red for Women Day. Senator Valencia Say explains why this day is so important to her.
As you all already know, I am a heart attack survivor. Come April this year, it will be 4 years. And I am proud to stand before you all to let you know that modern medicine has come a long way. For those of you, we know everybody has a mother, wife, maybe children, daughters. It is very, very important that we don't lose sight of the #1 killer of any disease is heart disease. And we want to keep it in the forefront and make sure we go red for women.
And in other news, a banking bill that failed to pass the 2003 General Assembly sailed through the House today without debate or dissent. Representative James Mills gives some history.
That was the same year that we took up the issue of predatory lending, and it got clogged up in the Senate due to the focus on predatory lending. This bill basically is a very simple bill. It allows for the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta to issue a letter of credit to your local banks that may want to receive state depositories from government monies. 39 other states already allow for this. We're the only state in the Southeast that doesn't do it now.
HB 96 passed 167-0 and moves to the Senate. The House also agreed to increase the number of licensed pilots for Georgia's growing ports.
The reason that we're bringing this bill forward, as you might have read the paper today as a press release, that we're now privy to the #2 largest port on the eastern coast. We've now moved to the #4 largest port in the U.S. So the ports of Savannah and Brunswick, as you might imagine, is the driver of this bill, and it's strictly a matter of safety.
House Bill 132 passed 170-0. It now moves to the Senate.
When it comes to finding ways to protect Georgians' biological information, a House study committee says they've done their homework. Today, Representative Ed Setzler outlined the committee's recommendations for protecting biological information. Lawmakers' Quandra Collins has the story.
With emerging technology, Representative Ed Setzler, chair of a special House study committee, says the privacy of Georgians' biological information needs to be safeguarded.
There's some real concerns with respect to an individual's personal information that we as a study committee thought it was important to look into more deeply.
Last year, the study committee on biological privacy was created by House Resolution 1558. Setzler says members looked at ways in which permanent biological information could be captured and maintained for law enforcement, medical information, and identification verification purposes. He also says the purpose of the study was to consider the need for policy decisions to ensure that a healthy balance is maintained between individual rights and the rights of the state and private institutions.
We just want to make sure that the use of DNA by law enforcement officials or by private entities is consistent with the values of regular Georgians.
Representative Ed Setzler says the next step is to draft legislation that will be consistent with the study findings to ensure that Georgia is ready to move forward in the next 10 to 20 years. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Quandra Collins.
Georgia is one step closer to protecting public employees and students' right to wish you a Merry Christmas. Today at the Capitol, a subcommittee heard testimony on House Bill 12, authored by Representative Clay Cox, which has been referred to as the Merry Christmas Bill because, if passed, it would protect verbal expression relating to the celebration of any public or legal holiday. The subcommittee also heard from Representative Steve Tumlin, who spoke on House Bill 24. That legislation would provide an advance directive for health care by combining provisions of a living will and a durable power of attorney for health care. Tumlin, who co-authored the bill, says that if passed, it would help protect the rights of individuals who control all aspects of their medical treatment. The subcommittee also considered House Bill 115, which, if passed, would allow persons who do not meet normal education requirements for admission to the Georgia State Bar to be able to take the examination and, upon successful completion, be admitted to practice law in this state. Jeff Bramlett, Secretary of the State Bar of Georgia, spoke out opposing the bill bill on the claim that if passed, it would lower the standards of lawyers in Georgia. House Bills 12 and 115 were given a do-pass recommendation as written, and House Bill 24 received a do-pass recommendation as amended by the subcommittee. All three bills will go forward to the full Judiciary Committee for its consideration.
We begin our Tuesday leadership series with House Majority Leader Jerry Keene. I asked Representative Keene about the challenges to bringing the 2007 supplemental budget to the House floor. He told me the House is proceeding cautiously when considering how to fund a shortfall of almost $60 million in the Peach Care insurance program for children.
We are waiting on the federal government to hopefully pass a resolution that would fund the federal government's portion of Peach Care coverage, and so we've been delaying that because that's a $58 million item in the budget, and we don't want to pass the amended budget out of the House, send it to the Senate, and then find out that either A, they are doing it, or B, they're not. We feel like we need to go ahead and take steps to fund that. So our plans are now to bring the amended budget to the House floor sometime late next week. I believe we'll be in Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so one of those days, and then get that to the Senate as soon as possible.
Are we getting any signs from Congress, then, that we're going to hear something one way or another by early next week?
I have not, and I will tell you this. I think the House leadership is committed that if the federal government does not get to us in time and let us know, then we're going to have to take some temporary steps to make sure that program continues. What makes Georgia's problem somewhat unique is our funding is going to run out in March, where most of the other states that are affected, and I think there's 17 others, will run out in May. And we simply cannot leave 200,000 children in Georgia without health insurance because of some holdup in Washington. So how we will accomplish that, I'm not quite sure yet. We have 2 or 3 alternatives which we're weighing. I know we can do it. It's just a matter of finding the best course of action on a temporary basis to continue that program.
Well, the governor's legislative priorities are starting to make their way through the General Assembly, and on the House side, looking at that income tax elimination for seniors. I know the AARP has spoken out against that, and some other groups, just in terms of the fact that they're afraid that it only benefits upper income seniors and then takes away money that could go towards services for seniors. I'm wondering if you could comment on that a little bit.
Well, I would disagree with the AARP's position on that. I think, first of all, when you say you're going to eliminate income tax on retirement income for seniors, that doesn't necessarily mean that revenues to the state treasury are going to go down, because seniors then are going to take and spend that money or save it, invest it, which creates revenue from other sources. But obviously the governor's package is one that will get very serious consideration. As you know, in the House, tax reform is a major priority, our major priority over the next 2 years, and we're looking at all aspects of the tax code. Chairman O'Neill with Ways and Means headed up a study committee. I believe he'll be releasing that House Study Committee report within the next day or two, giving some recommendations. So what we want to do is look at the governor's proposal. There's several other tax proposals. Our Speaker Pro Tem Burkhalter has an excellent proposal on the car tax. We've talked about the possibility of trying to eliminate the income tax on all of citizens of Georgia, if that's a possibility. So what we're going to do is ask our Ways and Means Committee to study all those good ideas, but come up with the best idea.
Well, in the next few seconds that we have left, what can you tell us about some of the other legislative priorities? Obviously the budget being the big issue, but what else can we expect coming out of the House? Well,
our theme in the House this year is less is more. And you've heard us say that, but we've told our caucus members that the citizens of Georgia really don't need a lot of new laws to help them. We want to make sure that they're safe and protected from the criminal elements, that we have a fair tax policy that allows them to invest in Georgia. But outside of that, we want to get out of their way and let them do what they do best, which is grow jobs and grow Georgia. So you'll see probably a very small legislative package coming out of the House this year, not any real monumental bills. And we're going to concentrate on tax reform and getting that brought to the people by early next year.
House Majority Leader Jerry Keene, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet.
Democratic priorities include saving the Peach Care program, restoring Hope scholarships to students at the state's technical colleges, and making the state a leader in the biofuel industry. House Minority Leader DuBose Porter told me that the General Assembly has several options for funding the Peach Care program.
We may have to have some legislation that would allow us to do some things to continue peach care and pay for it with state funds. That's not leveraged, that would leverage later for the federal funds. So I think that'll get resolved. We had a delegation that was made up of Democrats and Republicans that went to Washington. Georgia is just the first state to hit this. You have a lot of other states that will affect, but then you have a lot of other states, because of the way the formula is doing, they have a lot of surpluses. Texas has over $1 billion. How can that be used to offset some of the shortfalls in other states? So we have some advances that we have in Medicaid that we could perhaps shift, if we're allowed to do that, that could fill the gap so we can make sure that Georgia's children continue to be insured. That's possible, but it's going to take working together to do that.
Well, speaking of the young people of Georgia, you've been a longtime champion of the Hope Scholarship Program. This morning, Governor Perdue announced that he was reintroducing the Hope Chest Amendment in an effort to protect that program. Right. He says it's going to have broad bipartisan support this year. What are some of your insights into that?
Well, right now from the House side, we would still be opposed to it, but this is what it does. Well, let me take one step further back. The Hope Scholarship is currently protected in the Constitution. We passed that in the late 90s. In Georgia's Constitution, the priorities of Hope are established. That it's pre-K, that it's the Hope Scholarship, your reserves, technology, and construction. And it says that is, and in the statute that mirrors that, that is the only way lottery funds can be spent in Georgia. The Hope Chest takes off technology and construction. When we first had the lottery funds, we did a lot, in especially rural areas of the state, in technology. And it's difficult for a lot of us to say that's not a beneficial use from lottery money, because that's the only way to put technology in a lot of these regions of the state. Now, are there other things that need to be looked at Hope that may be more urgent? Yes. The caps that were put on the Hope grant 2 years ago has caused a reduction in enrollment in technical colleges. It has had a drastic reduction in the joint enrollment programs with high school and technical colleges. If we could put some of those things back, those programs have a 98% graduation rate from high school. Those programs also have a 98% placement into a job. So why don't we look at really where we ought to put the emphasis of managing Hope rather than doing away with something that's already protected? So that's where the House side is how you weigh those things. You know, we want to work with the governor on a lot of other things. We want to work with him on solving peach care. We want to work with him on alternative fuels. We want to work with him on Go Fish Georgia. But we need to find a balance in the Hope Scholarship, because we're at a very dangerous point if we continue to have drop-off because we don't allow excess from people who, if they're trained, can get a job in Georgia. And that's the priority for the House Democrats.
What are some of your other legislative priorities?
You'll see some things in education and certainly in the alternative fuels. That has been a big area for the House caucus for a long time, and to finally see that happen nationally and in Georgia is exciting. Certainly we hated where the fuel prices have gone to, but throughout this state, if we can go back to raising pine trees and corn and pearl millet to generate our fuel, I think if Georgians were given the choice, they would buy it. Even if it was an even price, they would buy it. Certainly you want to have it where the volume makes the price of that product be below what imported oil. But that is probably one of the biggest areas that this state is poised to be a real leader on. And we want to work with that. We've pushed that for years, and to finally have that bubble to the top, we're pretty excited about it.
Well, we will stay tuned to see what comes out of that. Representative DuBose Porter, thanks so much for being with us.
Sure, good to be with you.
Abused and neglected children are the focus of First Lady Mary Perdue's latest project. This morning at Grady Memorial Hospital, she launched Kids First, an initiative of her ongoing Our Children campaign. Lawmakers' Bridget Snapp has more.
Kids First will enable me to have activities each month of the year where I highlight a volunteer opportunity connecting with children who have been abused and neglected in different communities and cities across our state.
The first activity occurred this morning when the First Lady accompanied a First Steps volunteer on her visit with a new mother and baby.
First Steps is a program of Prevent Child Abuse Georgia that pairs mentors such as Renee with new moms.
Upcoming Kids First events will include a baby shower for children in foster care, a book drive for foster children, and a foster family appreciation night. The First Lady said these activities will help focus attention on the needs of abused and neglected children.
Typically, children who have been abused or neglected are not the first ones that we think about. I want all Georgians to think about these children when they think about volunteering in their communities and helping to meet a need.
Through her Kids First initiative, the First Lady hopes to increase volunteerism with foster children and to provide support to those caretakers who may be at risk for child abuse or neglect. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Bridget Snap.
Members of Georgia's agricultural industry came from across the state to Atlanta today to attend Georgia Farm Bureau Day at the Capitol. The annual event gives farmers the opportunity to meet face-to-face with their legislators. The Bureau met for a luncheon at the Georgia Depot where Governor Sonny Perdue offered an update on future agricultural legislation being considered by the General Assembly.
This year, I know you know that you face new issues at hand and some old issues, things like continued water availability, poultry health, renewable fuels, agritourism, and I think you'll be pleased to find that we have many of those same things in common this year in working together.
Poultry farming represents the largest percentage of Georgia's annual farm income, making avian flu one of the chief concerns for Georgia's future in agriculture.
It was Tourism Day at the Capitol today, and a couple of hundred people involved in Georgia's second largest industry showed up to show their support, and there were also a few legislators wearing funny hats.
I think the question that's on everyone's mind this morning is, how in the world Jeff Mullis talked Jay into wearing that hat today in his place?
I'm excited to do a little commercial for him. A little shameless plug for Rock City today.
Rock City is just one of over 9,000 businesses who bring tourism dollars to Georgia.
Tourism generates about $28 billion of economic impact to the state each year, which includes almost $800 million in state tax revenues and $500 million in local tax revenues.
Today, Governor Perdue and Department of Economic Development Commissioner Ken Stewart unveiled the 2007 Georgia Travel Guide and endorsed a check for $779 million in tax revenue.
Today is Tourism Day, but the fact is we want every day to be Tourism Day in Georgia, don't we?
All across the state, from the southern part of the state to the northern part of the state, from the coast to the mountains, people are coming to Georgia for tourist attractions, and the more the word gets out about what Georgia has to offer, the more we're seeing that tourism traffic coming through, and that's exciting to Georgia.
Governor Perdue also mentioned the impact of his $19 million Go Fish initiative and what it could have on tourism, as well as the importance of restoring Georgia's historic Civil War sites in preparation for the war's 150th anniversary. Coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, the Senate is scheduled to vote on a bill that would create a voucher program for special needs students, and the House Banks and Banking Committee is expected to consider payday lending legislation. We'll have those stories and all the latest from Under the Gold Dome tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you have missed any part of this Lawmakers broadcast, tune in tomorrow morning when Lawmakers repeats at 5:30 a.m. Now stay tuned for Wild Chronicles. Tonight, orphaned otter pups and relocating crocodiles. Wild Chronicles is coming up next here on GPB.
That's our broadcast for the 11th Legislative Day of the General Assembly. I'm Wendy Lawson.
And I'm David Zelski. Have a wonderful evening.
This has been a production of Georgia Public Broadcasting.